Cowboys Nation, you know when you see this face, we either got predictions or problems, and today we got both. But tonight I got with me Kelly K9, aka Voice of Cowboy Nation, aka King of Cowboy Comebacks. How you doing tonight, Kelly?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, man. I'm calling in. You know, I always call up on you to talk me off the ledge. Now, I don't know what I expected this season, but I didn't expect this. So let's go down the list. We went into the season. We didn't identify a number one running back. We knew that going in. We didn't identify a number two viable receiver. We knew that going in. We still were lighting the ass on defense on the line, so we still were getting ran through by Pop Warner type running backs. We knew that going in. We had the head coach on a lame duck contract. We knew that going in. But I don't know what my expectations were, but I still wasn't expecting this. And I will say we were riddled with injuries, but that's all over the league. It's a full contact sport, so we know that every year you got to factor in injuries. But and now with like you said, like I said, with Mike McCarthy on the lame duck contract, we've seen how that's unfolded and transpired. Where are we at now, Kelly? State of the Cowboys.
Right now, not much better than we were at the start of the season. I I know at the beginning of the season I had us winning 10 games. I knew it
Yeah.
was going to be a down year. I had us winning 10 games, and
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up winning 7. We was 3 short. Obviously, I had us with a healthy Dak Prescott all year. I didn't take into account all the injuries, so I feel like that if we would have been healthy and wouldn't have had all the injuries, I feel like we would have finished at 10 wins. But I feel like that 10 wins probably would have got us in the playoffs, but I think that we would have been, it would have been close because the Rams barely squeaked in. They had 10 wins. I think they were the last seed. So it had been close, but I don't think the Cowboys would have done nothing in the playoffs. I think it would have been more of the same, still disappointing end of the season and would have left us still kind of with this empty feeling. And I ultimately think Mike McCarthy, even with 10 wins, would probably have been gone as well. And the Cowboys would be right here where we're sitting right now, looking for a head
Mm-hmm.
coach and basically hitting the reset button.
Okay, so let me ask you this. So like you said, we hitting the reset button, Big Mike out of there. He's probably glad to be out of there, to be honest with you. I mean, it wasn't
Yeah.
wasn't a
Yeah.
lot you could do with Jerry Jones pulling the strings over your head. So he's probably glad to be out of there. But as a coaching option, what makes sense for us right now? Because you hit a wish list, it's the Dion's and some of the other guys. I don't really think that's plausible. I don't know if because he's too much. I hate using the term alpha male, but he's too. I will say it. He's an alpha male, and that's not going to work with Jerry Jones. I don't think.
Yeah. No, and you know, I know people had, because I had mentioned that I didn't think Dion was a good fit, and I didn't mean a good fit like that Dion couldn't handle, you know, Dallas or the spotlight at Dallas or anything like that. It had nothing to do with that. And it's not that I don't think that Dion, you know, could handle an NFL locker room, because I think he could too. I think
Mm-hmm.
Dion is smart enough to you know, put great football minds around him. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that Dion will put up with Jerry's nonsense. I don't think he could do it. I just don't. I mean, I know he loves and respects Jerry, and he said, you know,
Mm-hmm.
he said he was listening to it, and you know that it was intriguing and all that. But at the end of the day, you know, Jerry is the one that wants to run the show, and if Dion comes to town, he's going to be the one that wants to run the show. So I just don't see how it would work. I mean, unless all of a sudden Jerry is going to decide that he's going to step to the side and let somebody actually have more control than what he's given in the past, then I just don't see Dion working, because Dion's going to come in there and want to do things his way. You know, and he already said it before too. Dion said that, you know, a dude making millions of dollars that ain't doing his job right, he said he gonna go into the game with 53 players and come out with 35 because he gonna cut. You know what I mean? So, and
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
just think that would be the frustrating part for Dion, is having to work with, you know, all these guys, and to have to see and watch guys who are getting paid that much money and then not do their job and not want to light their ass up, you know, on the sideline. So I don't think Dion is a fit for that reason. You know, really right now there's not been a whole lot of names whispered about. The one that keeps coming up that I don't see why they would revisit it is Kellen Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't think that's going to be an answer either. And I don't think Jerry is going to go back that way, because the way that relationship ended was a little bit fractured. Um, and usually when guys leave like that, they don't typically come back. So I don't think that Kellen Moore really left under the best circumstances. So I don't really see him coming back either. Plus, if you look at what Philadelphia is doing, right now they're winning because they got Saquon Barkley running the ball and they got a #1 defense. Their offense really ain't been doing great. You look at Jalen Hurts' numbers this year. I was looking at it the other day. I think he's got like 5 games this season where he passed under like 175 yards. That's crazy. I mean,
Wow. Yeah, that's
he,
crazy.
he had one game in for sure. We passed for 113 yards and they won. I mean,
Wow.
and at the end of the day, I mean, they won, but they're doing it with defense and a run game. That's not really what we have right now in Dallas. We don't got the #1 defense. We don't have a Saquon Barkley. So I think we need a coach that can come in here and get creative offensively, which is why I think the one name that people keep talking about is Ben Johnson. You know, and names like him, Ben Johnson, Brian Flores, who I think got a bad deal in Miami. I think, I don't think they gave him a fair shake and didn't give him enough time in Miami to kind of build that thing and see it through. I like him. They've also been talking about Aaron Glenn, the defensive coordinator for Detroit Lions. He'd be another good decision too. So, I mean,
I like Glenn.
Exactly, I do too. And the people that I like, those kind of guys that'll be fresh, there'll be first time head coaches, kind of innovative ideas, seem like guys that would be at least Brian Flores and Glenn both be accountability guys. I'm not really sure about Ben Johnson, but those guys I feel like will be accountability guys and bring a toughness to this team that definitely has been lacking. And I think that's what we need. I just feel like that Jerry always tends to kind of go with what's familiar. I mean, his last hire, Mike McCarthy, was not familiar. So maybe he broke out of the mold with that. But I mean, they did last go around. They did interview guys they interviewed Ron Rivera before McCarthy. And I just want them to stay away from guys like that. Guys who have already shown you kind of who they are. I had some guy tell me Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan is 61 and 66 overall as the head coach. I mean, I'm sorry, but that tells me who you are. That's a big enough picture.
Yeah. That's a big enough sample size.
You know what I'm saying? I don't need to see anymore. I know you're an average head coach, period. He may have had a couple of good seasons, and he's one of them guys that's got a big mouth on him. He talks a lot, but I feel like his bark is worse than his bite. So I don't want him on this team. I'm out on Rex Ryan. I'm out on the Kellen Moore. I don't know what the hell Jerry's going to do right now, man. I just feel like he's kind of I don't think he knows what he's going to do, really. So I
don't know, man. Because look, now I know we talked about all the possibilities, but again, it all starts and stops with Jerry. So like we talked about earlier, how Mike McCarthy went into the year with a lame duck contract, but that's not even to mention a few of our premier players were right up until the 11th hour, not knowing their contract situation, waiting to get re-signed. So it's like once you build a house on instability or dysfunction, it's gonna permeate throughout the whole, organization. So with Jerry playing with the contracts and the money, and now he kind of got us handcuffed, who can we go out there to identify? Because now we don't have those same running backs as out on the market. I don't know what the running back market is going to look like this offseason, but is it a guy that you can identify in college that'll fit what we're doing, or is it somebody lingering around that's going to be a free agent that you think we can bring in?
Well, so I think my opinion in on the running back position is that the running back position this year is really, really deep. There's a lot of really good running backs in this class that you can get. Honestly, I feel like you can get a starting running back. I mean, it's out there. People have already shown that it can happen. There's a lot of running backs out there that ain't first round picks, but I feel like you can get a running back all the way back into the 4th round. And a starting running back this year, I think that running back class is deep as I've ever seen it, and I think it's got a lot of talent out there, a lot of good running backs out there. But what my gut is telling me, what I would like to see them do is draft a wide receiver in the 1st round, because I think the chances of you getting an impact wide receiver to put next to CeeDee Lamb in outside of the 1st round, it's usually not. You don't see a lot of wide receivers. Most of the stud wide receivers that you're getting in the league, them are 1st round guys. Occasionally you'll get a guy that's in one of the later rounds, but it's a bigger chance you're going to miss than you're going to hit drafting a wide receiver outside of the 1st round. So what I'd like to see them do, draft a wide receiver in the 1st round. What I have a feeling that they're going to do is I feel like that if Janty's there, they're going to grab him, which if they do, I'm perfectly fine with that. I'm not out on that because I think he'd be a starting running back day one. And I think he would be a very good running back. He brings a lot of good qualities to the table. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He runs the ball well, block well. He's a complete running. He's a complete back. So I think if they did that, that would be fine. But I think that if you do that, then I think what the Cowboys need to do is I think they need to go out and get a wide receiver in free agency because you need to get somebody proven. And there's several
Yeah.
guys out there. There's been talks about Tyreek Hill. I don't know if he would actually fit within the scheme in terms of how much he's going to want. I don't know what kind of contract, or if the Dolphins are even going to let him out of his contract. I think he's still under contract. But you got a guy like T. Higgins coming from Cincinnati who'd be an interesting fit paired next to CeeDee Lamb as a number 2 wide receiver if the Cowboys decided to spend some money. So that's what I think they should do is draft a wide receiver and actually go into the draft and grab a running back in one of the later rounds. But if they don't do that, then I think that they need to get a wide receiver in free agency. But either way, this year we need an impact number 2 wide receiver and we need a running back. Not to take nothing away from Dowdle, but he's just not. He's not an RB1. He's not a guy that you're going to go into a game and they're not going to game plan around stopping Rico Dowdle.
Yeah.
So I just think they need to help Dak out and they need to get him some weapons. And we didn't have none this year. We didn't have any weapons, and I think that they need to figure out I think they need to figure out the little bit on that offensive line rotation, what they're going to do there too, because that'll be interesting as well. We shuffled a lot of the offensive line this year. Brock Hoffman was when he had to step in and play at center, played very well at center. So you kind of wonder if they might slide Cooper Beebe out if Martin decides to hang it up this year, which that's also something on the table we got to think about. If he decides to retire, that they might keep Hoffman at centers, slide over Beebe to his natural position. That's what he played in college, right guard, and take that over. But they got to do something about Terrence Steele at right tackle. He can't. I mean, he's like a turnstile. That dude is just. I don't know what happened after the contract and the injury. He just was never the same, and
fell off a cliff.
He did, but I think we got something good with Tyler Smith, obviously, and I think that Guyton, can retake the reins at the left tackle position. He was a raw prospect from the jump. Everybody had said it, even the Cowboys acknowledged it. So I thought it was kind of a dumb move for them to roll him out and start him off in the season and let him take those lumps. Everybody talked about how Tyler Smith, we did it with him. Tyler Smith was different, though. He wasn't as raw. He was a more pro-ready prospect. Guyton he needed some time to develop. I think Guyton eventually is going to he'll be fine. I don't know if he'll ever develop into an all-pro like we saw with Tyron Smith, but I think he'll be fine and I think he'll be serviceable. But we definitely got to have that figured out going into the season versus trying to figure it out as the season progresses like we did this year because you saw Dak Prescott just uncomfortable in the pocket way too many times.
Yeah. And let me ask you this, because you touched on CD and said we need to identify number 2. I got to personally give CD props, man. I already made a video. I apologize to him. That's my Louisiana brethren. But to see him every Sunday after that shoulder injury with his shoulder hanging off, couldn't even take hits, couldn't even land on it. And the grit he showed, I had to say, man, at first I used to think maybe he's not worthy of the 88. He shut me up. And it wasn't just this year. It was coming into this year. I already knew what I started seeing him trending up, but it was just some of the like the drops I was seeing early on and I had questions about, but he turned the corner and he embodied what I want to see this team play like this year. You give me some dogs like him, and we're about to talk about Michael Parsons, but you give me some dogs with that mindset, I think we can flip the switch. But Michael Parsons, coming up to a contract with him now. We know how Jerry like to play games and playing people face and wag the money and all the way up to the. What we need to do with Michael Parsons, how fast do we need to get that deal done? And Uncle Jerry, what is he going to do?
I think they need to get the deal done. I hope that Jerry don't treat it like he did CD and Dak when he drug his feet and, waited to the last minute to sign him. And you see other guys getting signed and that ultimately cost the Cowboys money.
Man.
And people were like, well, Jerry's like, well, what's the difference with a couple million here and there? Well, there's a big difference when you're talking about you don't have money to sign people. Yeah, it's like, the reason why is because you're paying them, $2 to $5 million more than you would if you'd have signed them earlier, if you'd have signed CeeDee Lamb before Jefferson, if you'd have signed CeeDee Lamb before Chase. Like, you had these opportunities to go out and get these contracts done. You didn't do it. You drug your feet, and now you're paying for it. So, thing is, I heard Michael Parsons say not that long ago, he was talking, I don't know if it's on his podcast, but he said that he was willing to take little less money. He said, what's the difference between, 40, I think he said 35 million and 30 million, and it all sounded good. And props to Micah for saying that he wants to be a team player. But man, if I'm Micah Parsons, I get every last bit that you can get. Don't give these dudes no discount.
Man,
I don't give them no discount.
hell
I
yeah.
always hear people are like, man, they should give him a discount. Dak should take a discount. CD should take, all these players all these people that want him to take a discount. Hell no. You've earned your money. Get
Hell
every last
no.
penny that you can get, because nobody, not one damn person out here, if you are the best at what you do at work, or you're one of the best dudes at work, when it's time for that
Man,
evaluation and your boss is about to ask you, if you're going to talk raise, you're not going to tell your boss, you know what, I don't want the $1.50 raise. Just give me $1. No, you're going to take every last bit of it. Get your money. Like, so
hell yeah.
I'm hoping that they lock Parsons up and that they lock him up to a long term. They'll give him what he asked for, because, the thing with Michael Parsons is he's been kind of polarizing because he's got his podcast and stuff. And people were always saying, well, he talks too much. He says this. The latest thing that he said was that next year the Cowboys are going to win the Super Bowl. And everybody's like, oh, man, Micah got to, you can't be coming out and saying that now because you put a target on our back. And the Cowboys always got a target on our backs. We always got a target on our back. So, I mean, what else do you want him to say? Like, if I know me, for example, this is not the same thing as football. I like to play darts, and I play with some dudes that are way better than me. But every time I play with one of the dudes, I'm like, I'm about to bust your ass. Like, what do you want?
Exactly.
I'm gonna lose? No, I'm not. So
Exactly.
I don't mind Michael Parsons calling his shot, because that's what he should be shooting for. That's what he should be saying, is that we're going to come back and win the Super Bowl next year. So I don't really have a problem with Michael Parsons saying things like that, just because, I mean, it's kind of the nature of the business. People say things, and maybe he's saying it to get some clicks on his podcast. I don't really know, nor do I care. I just know when a number 11 is out there, they are game planning on ways to stop him. And having a guy like that on your defense, why would you not want that? The people that say trade Michael Parsons are insane. I mean, at one time during the year, I thought about it and I said, would I entertain trading Michael Parsons? Now, the only way that I would have, I said, is if we were going to blow this whole thing up. Like, if they were going to start from scratch, they wanted to get a rookie quarterback. You know what I'm saying? If they were going to part ways with Dak, if they were going to, decide not to sign CD for whatever reason, then I'd say, you know what, go ahead, man. Go ahead and just blow it up. Might as well get as many draft picks as we can. But we got Dak signed up. We got CD signed up. You need to get Michael Parsons, because you want that dog on your defense. And you need him. So and to kind of piggyback on what you said about CD, man, I earned a whole new level of respect from him this year. I already thought he was, one of the best receivers in the league, but I absolutely, just admire the way that he went out on the field and played with that injury, and he gutted it out, and he was still out there making plays, and he was still the number one receiver, and still going out there and getting 100-yard games on defenses with a bum shoulder. So
look, I had to put him on tonight. Salute, CD, man.
Absolutely.
My bad. I'm gonna say it again. My bad for ever doubting you, man.
Absolutely.
You did your thing. And piggyback on what you said about Micah. If he was a 53 man on the roster saying that, I'd have a little issue with it. But he's a person that has a direct impact, like you say. He's game plan for when he suits up. Getting off the bus, you better know where 11 is. So I have zero problems with him. And my favorite athletes are people like Jordan, Dion, guys like that. So I like that bravado. I want you to come out, tell me what you're going to do. Muhammad Ali, tell me what you're going to do and do it. Because that let people know, like, I'm not trying to sneak up on you. I'm really like that. So I have zero problems with that. Now, with Jerry, I got a question about Jerry, because I've heard people like Stephen A. Smith starting to mention stuff like slippage, the way he's handling business. I saw him make a comment. He didn't buy a team. He bought an occupation. Do you think, while Jerry is still at the helm of this organization, will we turn the table, or will this just be in the future once we move past Jerry?
I don't know, man. My buddy Mike Tag, that I do our podcast together with, man, he said we are deep in the Al Davis era, is what he said, and I kind of agree with him, man. I mean, you remember? You remember how dysfunctional the Raiders were towards Al Davis the last few years, because the man's mind started to go, and
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's just kind of how I feel with Jerry right now. Unfortunately, it's I don't know. I don't know if I don't. I think that they will have to win. They'll have to win despite Jerry.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, right there. Win despite of. 2-part question, and I'm gonna let you go, Kev. What did you think about the Trey Lance experience? And next year, with a fully healthy roster with Dak back at the helm, can Dak become one of those quarterbacks? Because I know when everything's been in place, he's performed and up to par. But sometimes we need one of those quarterbacks, especially with all the stuff that goes on with the injuries and Jerry playing with people contracts. One of those quarterbacks that can win despite of. Is Dak one of those quarterbacks that can win despite of? But first, I want to get your whole thoughts of what was the whole Trey Lance? We seen in one game and it wind up cutting out Cooper for his money, so I didn't like that. Even though we seen him, I'm like, this the terms we see him under. So what do we do with Trey Lance now? Does he have any trade value, or how you feel about that experiment?
Well, I thought it was kind of a failed experience, but I think if you were going to play Trey Lance, you should have played him from the jump. As soon as Dak Prescott went down, you should have just played him
There you
because
go.
you knew Dak Prescott was gone for the rest of the season. What did you have to gain by playing Cooper? I mean, nothing.
Exactly.
You knew this team at the time. I mean, anybody with eyeballs knew when Dak Prescott went down that this season was over for the Cowboys. We weren't making the playoffs. I mean, I would question to say even if we had Dak Prescott, that we probably still at that point weren't good enough. So
Yeah.
as soon as he went down, I would have put Atlanta. Now, that being said, for those people that was out there that said, well, we got to start Trey Lance because, he gives us a better chance of winning, I disagree with that. Rush was a better quarterback. He's got more skills, more experience. He's overall quarterback. So I said, well, if you're wanting to win games, Cooper Rush should be best. If you want to just tank the season and you want to see what you got in Lance, then you need to start Trey Lance, which is what confused me because you gave up a 4th-round pick for the guy, but you never wanted to see what he had, and you got the perfect opportunity to do it this year. So it's like, why did you not go ahead and let Lance start all them games? Because then you'd have had a really good sample size to see, hey, do we want to bring this dude back and maybe let Cooper Rush go and we try to develop him as the backup quarterback and maybe the eventual successor for Dak Prescott? Instead, you got a 1-game sample size. You still got no idea what you got with this man. And you're going to send him off packing. He's probably going to end up with another team on somebody else's roster. And you gave up a 4th-round pick for nothing, for 1 game. It made no sense.
Only the Cowboys. Now, let me ask you this: since you said tank, should we have tanked this year? You think we should have just tanked this season and just got it out the way?
I think they should have. Yeah, I think they should have. I mean, listen, look, I enjoyed the wins when they did win. I enjoyed it. I said I hate losing. I don't ever want to play to lose. But I don't think that you necessarily would have had to tank if you just would have put Trey Lance in. Because literally, if you put Trey Lance in, he's going to take his lumps. And you're probably not going to beat the Commanders in that 1 game. You're probably not going to go. I mean, Cooper Rush went on I think like a 4-game win streak there for a little while. I don't think that you do that with Trey Lance. But I think at the same time, you may also be gaining something even more valuable by being able to see the quarterback that you gave up a 4th-round pick for. You get to see what, if any, he can improve. Because from what I saw in that last game, I mean, he was still struggling with a lot of the same things that he struggled with in the preseason. But again, you gave him no reps, and you had the perfect opportunity to do that when Dak Prescott went down. So it doesn't make sense to me. But again, nothing that Jerry does ever really makes much sense to me. So
Hey man, I'm right there with you with that, and I'm the same way with you. Is like in my heart, I'm like, Cowboys can't even lose right. Like, why aren't we tanking? But as a fan in that competitive spirit, I wanted to win. So I'm saying I just ain't want to hear people mouth. I didn't want my phone going off. I wanted to win. So I was like you. I was kind of in limbo. Like, should we tank? Should we just take our losses naturally, so to speak? But I don't know, man. So back to Dak. Can Dak take us to the promised land once all pieces are in place? Because we're getting now to where the sample size of Dak is. How many years we've been riding with Dak now? What is he?
9.
10, 11? 9? Okay.
We're going into year 10.
So we're 9 years in. Okay, 10 years in. Is it more you need to see from Dak?
I think that Dak can win, and I think Dak's good enough. Dak has shown already that he can be a good quarterback. The problem is everybody wants to talk about, the struggles in the playoffs, what the Cowboys have or haven't done in the playoffs. But I mean, look, I don't think this Cowboys have ever really had a complete team. They've always had a glaring weakness, whether it be on the defensive side of the ball or whether it may be the offensive side of it. But there's always been a weakness there that just kind of kept them from being that complete team. I think if you look at it, I think that Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. But look at the Eagles the past several years; they've had way more playoff success, and the reason why is that their GM is actually a GM that knows how to build a roster, solid defense, great offensive line, got himself a stud running back. Lamar Jackson this year, they talked about how he could win in the playoffs. Now he's advanced into that second round. He's got a chance to go to the NFC Championship game playing against the Bills. They went out and got him Derrick Henry. The teams that got these really good quarterbacks and then they know they got a Super Bowl caliber quarterback, they don't sit stagnant in free agency. They go and they try to build around their quarterback, and whether that be to solidify the defense or whether that's to make the offensive line great, give them a good running back, give them the wide receivers and the weapons. The Cowboys have had a good offense in years past. But the Green Bay game, I can't put that on Dak Prescott. That was the defense.
Yeah.
Did Dak Prescott have a good game? No, but ultimately in the end, he ended up with 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, and almost 400 yards of offense. The defense gave up more than that. So, if the defense ain't playing and can't stop a nosebleed, then how exactly, I don't care if it's Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes back there, you're not going to win. So, I absolutely got faith that Dak Prescott can be the guy. I am, I kind of get a little bit worried now going into year 10 that he's starting to kind of have some injuries that are starting to stack up. That's starting to be a little concerning. It's starting to kind of it's funny how much his career has kind of mirrored Romo's career.
Man.
Ultimately, Romo ended up with only 2 postseason wins, and right now Dak is sitting at 2 postseason wins, and Dak is starting to have some injuries that are starting to pile up. So it's kind of funny how both their careers have kind of mirrored each other. But I do think that if you get the right head coach, you get the right offensive coordinator, and you get the right pieces in around Dak Prescott, a good run game, solidify that offensive line. I absolutely think he can win because, I look at the quarterbacks in the playoffs right now. You got Matt Stafford playing in the second round. I think Dak is a better quarterback than Stafford, and Stafford's won a Super Bowl. Ultimately, talent-wise, all that stuff, and, I think that Dak is a better quarterback than Stafford. I think he's a better quarterback than Jalen Hurts. I think right there, I think I don't know that I would say he's better than Lamar. I think Lamar's a better athlete, but I think Dak is the better of the factors when it comes to just strictly pass. I would say Dak than Lamar. And I think the only quarterbacks right now in the playoffs that I think have the edge on them is obviously Mahomes, and then probably Josh Allen, but it's not as big of a gap as one would think. I think that if Dak was on the Bills, I think the Bills team would be just as good as they were this year. So.
Hey, you got some takes. You say the Bill, Dak and Josh Allen, you got them 1A and 1B.
I got them neck and neck, man. I don't have them that big of a difference. I really don't. I think Josh Allen has a huge arm, and I think Josh Allen runs more. I think that Dak, though, can run. I think he can run. They just don't dial it up that way. And for whatever reason, after Dak got that ankle injury, he got very gun-shy in running the ball. But when Dak would take off and run, he was just as good as Josh Allen running that ball.
Yeah. It was a different dimension to the offense when he did that.
It absolutely was.
Since you brought up the playoffs, though, I got to talk about the NFC East because we got 2 of our rivals in there. And I know you mentioned Jalen Hurts, but what do you think about the rookie out there in Washington? Even though I'm in a funny spot with Washington because I hate Washington, but I love Daniels. He came from LSU. Love my Tigers. So I'm in a funny spot. I would love to see them win, but I would hate to see him lose. It's like I don't know how to even pull for that team. I want Daniels to do good, but I want the Commanders to lose, if that makes sense. But how do you feel about seeing our divisional rivals just move forward in the playoffs?
Obviously, I hate both those teams, so I don't want to see either one win. But I will say this: from what I've watched from Jaden Daniels this year, the dude's for real.
He's special.
And I think that C.J. Stroud had a really good rookie year, and then followed it up. But he struggled a lot this year. So it'll be interesting to see how Quinn manages that that sophomore slump, so to speak, in Jaden Daniels' second year. But I would say it's impressive as hell what the Commanders have done. Winning 12 games in his first year. They went from 4 wins last year to 12 wins this year, and playing in the second round of the playoffs. Jaden Daniels has a chance. Obviously, I don't. It's a tall task for what they're asked to do, but I mean, Jaden Daniels has a chance to advance to the second round of the playoffs in his rookie season. Now, do I think that's going to happen this weekend? Absolutely not. Because they're playing up against Detroit, and
That's a tall task.
I think Detroit's probably going to mop the floor with them, but he still does have the chance to. And and if you think about it, that'd be the craziest thing ever, man. If for some reason, if Washington happened to be able to upset Detroit and then Philly win, and then it's Philly and Washington in the NFC East championship game, boy, wouldn't that make you feel bad as a Cowboys fan watching your two division
Jack, I
rivals
would
play in the
throw up.
NFC title game?
I would throw up, kid. I ain't bullshitting. I would throw up.
I would too, because that would mean that one of those two teams is going to represent the Super Bowl, and I'm not ready for that. I'll never be ready for that.
I'm not ready for that at all. Let me ask you this: since you said Super Bowl, if Philly doesn't advance this year, because you're starting to hear little rumbles now, they're starting to have a little dysfunction. Why one, and QB1 started hearing they're not seeing the same eye to eye. You know how quick that window shut for San Francisco? Is the Super Bowl window shut after this year if Philly don't get it done?
Well, I'm not super familiar with who they all have locked up, who's going to be free agents. I know that their defense is fairly young. They've got some, I know Jalen Carter's still on his rookie deal. I think Kobe Dean. They got some studs on the defense. Those 2 DBs that they drafted, those are both rookies. I think their defense is set up for many years to come. So I would say, until they have to start making decisions on some of those bigger players on their defense, I'd say that defense is probably going to be able to carry Philly for the next couple of years. And you got to say, as long as you got Saquon Barkley locked up and the offensive line, that's a recipe to continue for a couple more years. So I'll be honest, I think that Philly's main problem, honestly, is that the quarterback position. I just don't think that Jalen Hurts is a good enough passer that they'll be able to win when it's needed the most. I just don't think that they can do that. I don't think Kellen Moore and Jalen Hurts, I don't think they work well together. I thought that was a bad matchup when they signed Kellen Moore. And I think they're winning in spite of it. If you talk to any of the Eagles fans out there, they'll say they want Kellen Moore gone. They're done with the Kellen Moore experiment. Things that we said about him when he was in Dallas. So I think that I don't think their Super Bowl window is shut. But I think that they're still just missing that. I just think they're missing that it factor when it comes to Jalen Hurts. I just don't see it with him, for whatever reason. And I think when you look at their receivers, you could even hear it from them. I think you hear some of the comments from A.J. Brown, and I think that I just don't think that they believe in Jalen Hurts. I don't really think that the coaches believe in him that much, because when it comes down to it, they're not gonna take the ball out of Saquon's hands. They're gonna leave it in Saquon's hands because they'd rather have it in his hands than Jalen Hurts' hands. And I don't blame them. It's a winning recipe. It won them a lot of games this year. So, but when it all comes down to it, man, I'm always be a Philadelphia hater, so I can't say that they're gonna win no damn Super Bowl. But they're gonna be a team. I think it's gonna be a 3-way race the next couple of years. I think it's gonna be the Cowboys, and if we can get back up there and make the moves we need to, I think it'll be the Cowboys, Commanders, and the Eagles. Now the interesting thing will be if the New York Giants can get themselves a quarterback. They'll still possibly grab a quarterback. If they go out and they grab themselves a quarterback, they got a stud in Malik Neighbors right there on that offense. That's a piece that they can build around. Now all they need is a quarterback.
Yes, sir.
They need a quarterback.
Yes, sir.
And that offense can start humping over there in New York, and they got some pieces that they might, start to improve to. I love to see the NFC East though when it's ultra competitive and when it's not just a layup every game. Trust me, I like to beat the Commanders twice a year. Love to beat the Washington twice a year, or New York twice a year, or Philly. But it's also fun when it's competitive games and each week is a battle. Because then into the playoffs and you're battle tested, playing some of the
Battle
best teams
test.
in the NFC.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah,
And
so
I
I,
will
I
say
like
this
it. I like what
about
I'm seeing.
yeah, and I'm gonna say this about because I was right there with you with Jalen Hurts coming out of college. One of my kinfolks, he told me like, man, Jalen Hurts better than you think. But I was right there with you. I never saw him as a college player. But to his credit, I will say this: I seen him develop more from college to pros than I've seen a lot of guys take their starting role and
Yeah.
develop. So I will say this: he has developed into more of a passer than I ever thought. Because I was right there with you coming out of college. I'm like, I'm not sold on Hurts. You know,
Yeah.
everybody had the hype train around. I'm like, I'm not sold on him. But before we wrap up, though, Kelly, man, anything else you want to say to Cowboy Nation and plug your show, man, the podcast, what you got going on? Let people know
Well,
what's
yeah,
up
man.
with you.
First off, just want to say, Cowboys, we gotta hang in there, man. We got, it's the off season now, and regardless of what you think about how this season went down, you gotta be able to have some optimism and hope that the new head coach, whoever that may be, Jerry understands that he's so old that he's knocking on heaven's door. This will be his. I think this will be his last coaching hire. I really do. Because Jerry getting up there in age, I don't think that he's got too many more years left in him. I think this will be his last coaching hire. So I think he knows he's got to make the right one. Hopefully he does, and then that coach brings in, great staff with him, good offense coordinator, good defense coordinator. We can turn this corner and get something done next year because this year was tough. It was extra tough, but yeah, man. Anybody that wants to watch Cowboys content and hear some every week, we live on Wednesday nights on YouTube. It's called Cowboys Cave. Just type in Cowboys Cave on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. We go live every Wednesday night in the off season and during the regular season. We be on there and we do a little bit of, it's Cowboys Cave. It's therapy though, man. We let people come on and we let them vent and we let them, talk about what's bugging them and stuff like that. I mean, we got to get you on there, man. We can have you come on and you can vent with us, and it's a therapy session, and that's what we like to do. We talk about this Cowboys organization and what's been driving us nuts because that's what gets us through this, man, is chopping it up with the rest of Cowboys content creators, Cowboy fans, just everybody, because they all got the same passion, and it's all we all want the same thing. That's 6 Lombardi.
That's it. And I'm gonna end it with this. Jerry, you've done a lot for this organization. We would love for you to see one more trophy get put in that case for your legs. We'd love to see that, Jerry. You got to get out your own way. And 2, as Kelly K9 just said, when we're having a venting session, this is for Cowboy Nation. We don't want no input. It's like we're talking about our kids. We can call them whatever we want to call them. We can say however we feel about. That's not for y'all to tag us and give us y'all input. Worry about your own scores and your own trophy cases. That's all I got to say. Look, Kelly, I appreciate you always dropping in, man. I always love having you on for your insight and your passion, man. And hey, when something happens, we're going into the off season. They make any moves or something, bring it back on. We'll chop it up, see what you think about it. Yay or nay. We'll be thumbs up or thumbs down like the winning gladiator. So I'll be waiting to hear back from you.
All right, man. Thanks for having me on, man. It's always good to chop it up with you.